The legends won the war. But behind every legend is a graveyard of failures that history quietly buried. These are 10 more American planes that never made it. Brewster SB-2A Buccaneer. 771 of these were built. Not a single one ever fired a shot in combat. Designed as a modern dive bomber for the Navy, it was overweight, underpowered, and so poorly constructed that the FBI investigated the factory for corruption and arrested the managers. Pilots called it a flying brick. The Navy used every single one for training and target towing. 771 aircraft, 0 battles. The most produced plane that never fought a war. Curtiss S-03C Seamew. The Navy wanted to modernize its float planes by replacing a 1930s biplane with a modern monoplane. The Seamew was that monoplane. Its Ranger engine was unreliable and underpowered. In flight, it constantly porpoised, pitching up and down with no control. By 1944, it was pulled from every frontline unit. The replacement? The same old biplane it was supposed to retire. In the history of aviation, very few modern planes lost their job to the aircraft they replaced. Beachcraft XA-38 Grizzly. The Grizzly was fitted with a 75mm cannon capable of destroying a tank with a single shot. Despite being the size of a medium bomber, it reached 376 miles per hour, faster than a P-47 at the same altitude. Test pilots loved it. Engineers loved it. But it used the same Wright R3350 engines as the B-29 Superfortress, and the B-29 had priority. Only 2 prototypes were ever built. The Grizzly was not killed by the enemy. It was killed by its own side. Douglas BTD Destroyer. The BTD was designed as a carrier torpedo and dive bomber to replace the aging SBD Dauntless. As production continued, the plane grew heavier and slower than the original specs. A wing failed structurally during a diving test, killing the pilot. That was enough for Douglas's own chief designer, Ed Heinemann, who walked to the Navy and personally requested cancellation. 28 planes were built. None saw combat. Its greatest achievement was giving Heinemann the freedom to build the legendary A-1 Skyraider instead. Consolidated XB-41 Liberator. In 1942, German fighters were tearing American bombers apart over Europe. Someone had a bold idea. Arm a B-24 Liberator with 14 machine guns so it could escort the bomber formations itself. The result was so heavy it could not keep pace with the unloaded bombers it was meant to protect. The planes it was escorting had to slow down and wait for it. Only one was ever built. It was a fortress too armed to defend anything. Boeing XB-38 Flying Fortress. The B-17 was running short on radial engines. Engineers proposed a solution. Replace them with liquid-cooled Allison V1710s, the same engines that powered the P-38 Lightning. The XB-38 was modified and began testing. On its 9th test flight, an engine caught fire at 25,000 feet. The crew bailed out. The aircraft was destroyed. Program canceled immediately. By that point, the original engine shortage had already been resolved. It burned to solve a problem that no longer existed. Douglas XB-42 Mixmaster. The Mixmaster looked like nothing else in the sky. Both engines were buried inside the fuselage with 2 contra-rotating pusher propellers mounted at the tail, exactly like a blender. The logic was simple. No engines on the wings means no drag. No drag means speed. And it worked. 410 miles per hour. faster than the B-29 Superfortress. But jet aircraft were already being tested. By the time it was ready, the propeller era was over. The fastest piston bomber America built arrived a decade too late. Curtiss XP-42. Engineers took a standard P-36A Mohawk fighter and gave it the most aerodynamically refined engine cowling ever designed for a radial engine at that time. The theory was that better streamlining would deliver significant speed gains. After months of testing and thousands of dollars spent, the XP-42 was faster than a standard P-36 by 5 miles per hour. 5. It became a research aircraft instead of a fighter and taught American engineers one expensive lesson. Cowling alone cannot save a mediocre airframe. Seversky XP-41. The XP-41 was a direct improvement over the P-35, featuring a turbo supercharger for excellent high-altitude performance. In 1939, it was a genuinely capable aircraft. But the Army Air Corps chose the Republic P-43 Lancer instead. The same P-43 that leaked fuel constantly, caught fire in service, and was considered too dangerous for combat by its own commanders. The XP-41 lost to a plane that also failed. One prototype was built. It was destroyed in 1943 when the landing gear refused to extend. Defeated by a failure, then destroyed by its own wheels. Vought TBU Sea Wolf. Vought designed the Sea Wolf in 1939 as a torpedo bomber to compete with the Grumman TBF Avenger. Performance was comparable. The potential was real. But Vought's factory was already at full capacity building the F-4U Corsair. So the Navy handed production to Consolidated Vultee instead. Consolidated built 180 of them. By the time the first one flew, the war was nearly over. Not one Sea Wolf ever flew a combat mission. Designed by one company, built by another, used by nobody. A bureaucratic accident dressed up as an aircraft. Behind every P-51 Mustang and every F-6F Hellcat stands a graveyard of planes that never made it. Not because the engineers failed, but because war doesn't wait for anyone to get it right. Every one of these aircraft taught America something, and America listened.